We are live Monday afternoon.
Monday
afternoon.
Is this considered afternoon?
Yeah.
To me, if it's after 4, I guess it's not after 4, is it? It's
is
evening.
after 4.
It is after 4, so to me it's evening.
Oh man, you're already like in your 70s, early bird special at Carrabba's. You want to go to Carrabba's?
So
or Sweet Tomatoes?
No, it'd be Bob Evans, right? Well, Sweet Tomatoes out of business, so that ain't gonna happen.
Oh really?
Yeah, man, they went under. Fucking COVID killed them.
All of them, or just the local
yeah,
one?
It's so sad. Like
Sweet Tomatoes.
That was like the one buffet that Stacy would ever agree to.
Oh, dude, you go there and graze.
You go there and fill up a soup bowl of bacon bits and put it on everything else for Chris and chicken out of the chicken noodle soup. So yeah, man.
So as we get started,
Merry late Christmas, everybody.
Very late, yeah. Merry belated Christmas. So as always, we would be remiss to not open up by discussing our lovely sponsor, Crown Rash Guards.
Yeah, man.
I actually have, dude. I'm like Superman now. I have my Crown Rash Guard in my bag right here. Well, I'm not going to get it out, but it's there. For whenever I get called to do no gi, no problem, I got my rash guard here.
Yeah, man.
And one thing
in your phone booth.
We haven't talked about. First of all, we have a promo code Brews.
Brews, yeah.
So if you order multiple items on there, you are already going to get a discount. But if you're like me and you're like, I just want to tip my toe in the water and try out one rash guard, you enter our rash guard promo code Brews. So the BJJ and Brews, just the Brews part, plural. And you'll get 20% off an order for a single rash guard,
and if you order 2, I think it still works out.
If you order 2, you're going to get that discount anyway. So what we're doing is we're giving you the benefit of getting that 20% discount on a single rash guard order. So use that rash guard. It makes it like super. It almost like BJJ HQ.
Yeah. It's price. That's
so.
Don't talk about the competitor. You don't do that.
Yeah. So we've talked about how durable they are, how they look. Basically brand new after we've used them for like 3 weeks now. One thing we haven't talked about, which, maybe for us, it's not as much of a big deal, but for other people, they really like it. You actually can get a ranked rash guard. So if you're like a white belt, you can have a white shoulder, you can have a blue shoulder, you can have a purple shoulder, a brown or a black. So if you just got your purple belt and you're like, dang, I want to show that off on the no-gi mats, get your one with a little purple sleeve. And you're good to go.
And the blue is the Brazilian blue, the baby blue. I love that.
The Helio.
Yeah,
the Helio blue.
No, the Helio. He wore a navy blue belt.
Oh, okay. But yeah, the traditional.
The original Atama belt. That's like all, and you probably get some cool stickers, which so it's been like a really long weekend, right? From like the holiday and stuff, from Christmas Eve through, which gave me a chance to. I was looking at the sticker stands. Like one of them is like Jiu-Jitsu laundry repeat.
Yeah.
And so it gave me an opportunity to do all of my jiu-jitsu laundry. I got too many fucking gis, man. Like, and the fact that I have like 2 weeks worth of gis, like half of them are clean, half of them are in the laundry.
Isn't that bad to let those gis just sit and fester?
So I get home and I sling them up over my power rack to dry out.
Okay.
And then like, once that's dry, then I put disinfectant and shit on all my gis anyway. So
you also don't seem to sweat too much either.
Oh, I sweat so much.
Oh, you do?
Are you kidding me? But I also wear a rash guard underneath.
That's
to
true.
Soak up with,
So Crown Rash Guard.
I have 2. Yeah, man.
There you go.
It protects against the Well, I don't know about that, but it protects against any. It protects me and whatever. I have 2 layers of protection.
There you go.
But
this is the one case where wrapping it twice is actually safer.
Yeah. But it definitely like the little sticker that he sent along with our.
It hit home.
Oh yeah, I was just like, oh man, this is.
So yeah, check them out, guys. They're Crown Rash Guards. So crownrashguards.com. Enter promo code Brews to get 20% off a order of a single rash guard. They're also on social media at Crown Rash Guards on Instagram and Facebook. So thank you, Crown Rash Guards. So.
Yeah, man.
So we were talking a little bit prior. As you were making your commute over to the gym, you called me.
It's a commute if you hate it.
Okay.
Right? It's or not hate it. No, that sounds terrible. I don't hate work.
Anyway, we were talking about a number of things. I actually had some stuff pop up in my head as well. So surprisingly, I think we have a lot to talk about. But we'll start with what we were talking about in that conversation while you were driving, which is the difference between gyms that foster community and gyms that don't. And we
so we also
and
have
let's
to
make
clarify.
A distinction of what that means, right? So we're making the distinction between, let's say you go to a regular like commercial gym to lift weights. For us here, it's like 24-hour fitness, Crunch Fitness, Planet Fitness, LA Fitness.
Esporta? I've seen a couple of these pop up. You seen that?
No, I haven't.
There's one on the 408. I see. It's like 408 and Goldenrod.
So anyway, these places where you go in, you lift weights, but
I'm like, there's a Latino chain of like gyms. This is strange.
So you go in, you lift weights, you leave, and I'm sure they do member appreciation days and stuff like that. But there's a distinct difference between that and how that's marketed and how that's presented to their clientele versus a CrossFit gym, and in many cases a martial arts gym. CrossFit gyms in particular are, one of their pillars, we would all agree, is, you're working out as a community, like you're bonding. It's not just you going in to work out. You're working out with a community that's going to support you, elevate you, make you better. Hold you accountable, all that stuff.
For all the buzzwords.
Right. Yeah. So it that's part of it. It's also probably, they also charge you like $150 for a membership versus, you can go to Crunch for $10 a month.
Yeah. $9.95 actually. I saw a sniper sign for it.
I know. So, and depending on the I don't know about Taekwondo schools. Like I think things, it can be more variation among martial arts.
I think they Okay, go on.
My point is like I'm not trying to identify which of the gyms that do this and which do not. I'm just talking about
just
what
the two
happens.
Different types.
And what can happen.
Yes.
Okay. So in the one case, we've got the commercial. You go in, you get your workout, you leave. Maybe you make a few friends along the way.
I feel as that's a very consumer-based gym, right? Like,
correct.
Like it's just, to me, I think it's a McDonald's. You go in, you get your fucking burger, and you leave.
We're providing you access to, free weights, to machines.
We're allowing you
usage
to rent space for that. It's
access to this equipment.
Yeah, we're leasing you.
Go to a CrossFit gym. You're doing classes with groups of people that you get to know that are all like, let's go. Like everyone's supporting each other. And you kind of
have a personal trainer.
Yeah, there's
you have a coach, right?
That's the term. There's an emphasis on camaraderie, and being part of the group.
Yeah.
Not just like, it's a lot harder to go in to a CrossFit gym, not talk to anyone and leave.
Right.
Like whereas I could go to Crunch Fitness every day and not talk to anybody.
Keep your fucking headphones on and go and do your thing and leave, right? Like,
so the reason this is all coming up is because we've just talked to so many people, both in, let's say, the jiu-jitsu community. Partially we've heard stories, but especially in the CrossFit community.
Yeah.
And I'm not singling out CrossFit. I'm talking about gyms that have community, and that can be either or.
Yeah.
But let's just go
this happens. I mean, you asked about like Taekwondo, and it's easy to pick on Taekwondo because reasons.
I saw a great meme showing two guys. You saw that one?
Yeah, friends don't let friends.
Yeah, no,
I'm really bad about checking like Facebook messages, or not Facebook,
Instagram messages.
The Instagram messages, because like all of this like social media messaging thing is just it's so invasive. But I saw that and I laughed. So shout out to Alan. I'm still gonna pick on Taekwondo forever. But to go back to that point, like I think it's across the board, right? Because like there are, when you think of the original thing, Matt Thornton, ding, his original thing about like traditional Eastern martial arts was a lot of them tend to be like cult building, right? And a lot of that kind of,
which has been a criticism of CrossFit from some people,
and jiu-jitsu now,
people have perceived that as is kind of cultish because people really get into it.
They super get into it, and it and oftentimes when it's this sort of like deified grand poobah whatever, right? Like,
and jiu-jitsu certainly has that more than even CrossFit, because jiu-jitsu has
I'm handing down to you,
and the portraits on the wall, whereas CrossFit, to my knowledge, doesn't have that.
Not that I know, but you know. And Glassman got fucking booted anyway, right? Because he was racially incredibly insensitive. But that definitely happens in the traditional. I mean, not to single out Taekwondo, but like traditional martial arts, like Chung Mudo or Umyangdo, which like I see one. Okay, so like there's I have a customer of mine who, when we had lunch one day and we were talking about traditional martial arts and stuff, and he's asking me about what I do. And he had asked me, he's like, hey man, like, does this sound right to you? And I was like, lay it out, man. He's like, my brother got involved in some sort of like traditional martial arts.
Got
school.
Involved. Look at it. Look at it.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
He didn't even like sign for a gym. He got involved.
Got involved with, right? And he's like, does this sound right? And he's like, oh, you know, like they like make you bring in like all your financial information and stuff. I'm like, nope, red flag. Like right when I hear that, I'm like, dude, you need to get your brother out of that shit, because this is where
you need to report them to the Better Business Bureau.
Yeah, like, you know, he's like, oh, because they're trying to help him manage his money and see how much he can afford. I'm like, first off, martial arts school is there to
They're
help
not
you
financial advisors.
Exactly, right? So like when you step outside the realm of that, of what your actual service is.
When you go into the Grandmaster's office in the back, where he's sitting in the windowless room with a fan.
Yeah, and when I hear that, I'm like, red flag, get out, right? And I obviously that's an extreme, but I feel as though oftentimes the big knock on traditional martial arts schools is free labor. Is because this grandmaster, whoever behind the door, you know, shows up once a year, is always extremely deified and has all the sacred knowledge and whatever. He'll often abuse. I'm using he, but you know, just they.
Sure.
Will often.
We
abuse
all know God's a man.
The
too,
students.
So
Oh my God! Calm down there, Mr. Anti Wonder Woman 1984. I did.
Can we talk about that movie?
I did finish it. Not DC strongest.
If okay,
This is with
2.5 hours of my life on that.
Yeah,
don't
we
get me
lost
all
everything.
triggered on that. I was angry.
But oftentimes, like people's services often get abused, right? Like professional services, and a lot of
serving that higher power.
Yeah, so that happens a lot, and it's a knock on traditional martial arts.
So. I guess the whole point of this conversation and why we're being very careful about identifying, like classifying these two types of gyms, and again, I think you pointed out one thing, which is like it's kind of like a cult, you know, like those jiu-jitsu guys, kind of like a cult. Or those.
Oh, people tell me that all the time.
Yeah, and you know, CrossFit, they're kind of like a cult, you know, and my thing has always been like, at least they're a cult about. And I'm not saying they are, but
self-improvement.
But I was like, at least it's about people that are nuts about being in shape. You know what I mean? Like it's that seems a little more constructive.
We don't think some meteor is coming and we're all wearing Nikes and stuff and drinking Kool-Aid,
in that respect.
right?
But what does happen is, and it's just, I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's just there are side effects of that kind of culture.
With the good comes the bad.
Exactly. With the community comes. What would be a good word? We say inbreeding.
I was going to use the word incest.
Thank you. Incestuous, not inbreeding.
Yeah,
incestuous was the word I was looking for. Things become getting incestuous.
Yeah, it's
now we heard Keenan and Josh Hinger on their podcast, the Map Urban podcast, talk about. Unfortunately, it's typically. A female shows up in a male dominated, and jiu-jitsu is male dominated,
and it happens a lot.
It is.
It happens in every martial art. Like,
a female appears, and what peacocking ensues? Like what?
I guess so. Yeah.
Something. Things get embroiled. So here's the first thing, and Josh brought this up. Is it because we're so fanatical about what we do that we don't have time to date in traditional means, like meet people? So when someone of the opposite sex appears, it's like, that's our opportunity to date. Like, what else are we supposed to do? I mean, and that's kind of like Josh's kind of point is like, I do jiu-jitsu all the time.
Like, so how the hell else am I
why wouldn't I date a student?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Whereas, but as we know, many times, and the truth of the matter is, right, whatever percentage of relationships happen will end, right? Like just in general, if you go out and start dating someone, chances are that is not going to be your future wife or husband or partner, right? You're going to break up and then you find that person, you know? It just so happens that when it happens in a gym setting, it's not like when you break up, you don't see each other anymore.
Yeah.
You have that, the community now has, it was all cute when they were together and coming to the barbecues together and doing the WODs together. But then when things get, you know, a little
shaky,
a little awkward, now the community feels the brunt, almost like we're having Thanksgiving dinner and, you know, two sides of the family that never talk are now there, right? So that's one area where this can happen. You were telling me some stories from like CrossFit scenarios where weirdness was happening
in very similar ways. And I always feel as though, so like it's sort of, what's the thing is like, what's the most common reason for like divorce? It's like, number one is like finances, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and that's a big factor in what I've heard. Mind you, I've never done CrossFit. I've tried it, but I've never been involved in any CrossFit.
I mean, you pretty much do CrossFit at your home every day.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's you know, I do a lot of everything.
Fit. You do solo fit.
Yeah. That's probably why I'm just not getting better at any of it, right? Like what do you feel like doing today? I'm gonna hit the heavy bag for 20 rounds. You know, make my shoulders hurt a lot.
You're an intuitive. You're intuitive.
The Weider intuitive principle of training.
So what is it with the money though?
But like it's always it's in money. I think because when people are around it so much too, right? Like they want to get more involved than they probably necessarily should, mm-hmm. right? Like, hey man, like, what does it take to get in on this? Right? That happens. I hear that a lot. I've seen it happen a lot, and I feel as though that's a great way of fucking up relationships, right? If people don't feel as though they're getting their share of equity, and that's not good, right? So like, where's the balance then of the dude who just pays his dues, shows up, fucking gets a workout, hangs out a little bit, and goes home?
Well, it's funny because I mentioned this to my roommate on my way out the door, and she was very like nonchalant. She was like, "Oh yeah, of course." She's like, "This wouldn't happen if you just." She's like, "You guys are just psycho and train every day. Like this wouldn't happen if you guys just trained jiu-jitsu like twice a week and and then maybe hung out a little bit and left. Like this wouldn't happen." And I think so. I guess what I'm trying to do with this is like identify what are the characteristics what's the recipe for this where you have the benefits but also the drawbacks, the pitfalls.
Oh yeah.
You know, and is it the fact that like do people do like I feel like especially with jiu-jitsu and I'm guessing also with CrossFit, it's like you do that more than 2 to 3 times a week. That's more like 5 to 6 times a week for a lot of people.
Right.
So these people become your second family if you're training and sweating and is it the Stockholm syndrome? Like you guys are suffering together.
Isn't Stockholm syndrome where you?
No, Stockholm is like the captor, like the
prisoner
like the captives,
falls
in love with the captor.
They start.
So maybe that's when you fall in love with the instructor.
That's
what are we implying about
sympathizing? Yeah.
So we're not calling the instructors slave drivers. They're not.
Yeah, they're not. They're not
actually.
Captors. We're all here on our own free will.
But there's something about. I mean, there's no doubt that our military they do intensive training as a group to form bonds between people.
Sure, I mean, like Paul mentioned it at promotions, right? Like
collective struggle,
right? There's something to that.
Yeah,
I mean, like I think you won't see a tighter team than the fucking wrestling team at any high school, right? Like they're
probably
and you want to talk about struggle, right? Like,
so the point is what is this unavoidable?
Yeah, you set limits, right? Like you set personal and professional limits. It's hard to do, but you have to.
But what about the Josh Hingers that say, but how I want to be happy, and if I'm looking for a partner and I'm committed to doing this so much of my time, is it wrong of me to then not deny myself the only option? He's like, because I do this all the time, my only option in his now people would argue, well, maybe it's not your only option. But let's it is. Let's make his assumption. Right? Let's make his assumption. Say, well, they would, my roommate would be like, well, just take a day off, bro. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah, but your day off is going to be spent doing bills and stuff, not fucking hunting your.
Okay, but we're not going to argue that point. Like I can understand people debating that point.
Yeah.
But people really like CrossFit. People really like jiu-jitsu. It's like there is an addiction there. There's no doubt about it. Like we want to do it every day as much as we can. So a guy like Josh Hinger, and I'm just using him because he brought it up. I'm not singling him out. It's like, well, I do this every day. I would also like to have a partner in life this is my only place I can meet people. So why should I shut the door on meeting people, even though it could lead to
terrible situations,
awkward situations?
Yeah, I guess.
Where it's usually like, I mean, I guess it's safer for the person who's been there longer, and especially if you're an instructor, then it's really awkward because
you can't.
The instructor's not leaving. The instructor's not leaving, so then usually the student just leaves. Or they just deal with the awkwardness and then they move on. If they're mature, the dream is like both people are mature adults,
right?
They have a relationship.
So how do you sign a prenup, right? Up. Like how do you how do you sign a prenup for this sort of stuff? Like how do you this? A lot of that is, I'm going to go back to my term that I just always my fallback is. Shouldn't we just communicate about it?
Oh, there we go.
Like, isn't that the actual solution? And yeah, it is, but it's a very complicated conversation to have because like nobody wants to enter, and we're only just using the romantic relationship as a literally just
that's an easy one to talk about. There are other ways things can be incestuous.
Yeah, exactly. Like the whole financial thing, right? Like, which is kind of, but like, and this kind of goes to so. Like one thing Stacey and I, and maybe it's the accountants in both of us, is like I will always opt to do business with the guy who's like a fucking LLC or like a corporate chain, right? Because like I have recourse, which is why I have a real big I have like weird idiosyncrasies about like ordering things on eBay because it's like peer to peer. I'm like, I know that guy's gonna fuck me.
So you're not a Craigslist guy?
No, absolutely not. I ain't gonna let some dude rape me and take my money. Are you kidding me?
Oh, dude.
No. Hell no, right? And that
I know people that are the complete opposite that want to deal with it because they think that's an impersonal, non-human entity. I want to deal with.
Yeah, but I have recourse where I can file a claim with my
you litigious bastard, you.
Right? Like I have actual recourse, right? And I got into a very large argument.
What about a handshake deal man to man? Like
and that's
just
it, right?
Like back in the day.
My buddy bought a goddamn microwave off of some fucking bum downtown after purchasing some pizza.
That's highly prejudicial language you're using there, my friend.
What? And he was like,
some bum downtown. Like you're
literally a bum on the side. I'm like, first off, buddy, what are you doing? Why are you buying a microwave?
How nice was that white van that he pulled up in?
And he's like, yeah, it was like $30. I'm like, why would you buy a goddamn I'll buy you a microwave. He's like, I'm like, bro, that thing was probably stolen. And I'm like, what happens if it doesn't work? And he's like, then I go back to that guy, and if he's a man of, I'm like, it's a fucking bum that sold you a microwave so he can go buy a goddamn 32-ounce quart. Well, that is a quart of OE. Like, what do you mean, his honor? Like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Let me spend my $40 and go buy a legitimate one
to be a liberal.
From
Look at you.
Walmart. Right? Like,
you are the most conservative liberal.
I am, right? Like, let me go deal with.
You're like, I don't want to deal with this bum.
Fuck that. Honor. Come on, man. Like, let me file my claim with Visa if this dude stiffs me.
Oh, yeah. Well, what if he accepted credit card? What if he had one of those
like he's got a square.
yeah.
Like, then in that case, I can file my complaint, right? Like, I have recourse. But so
you're the kind of guy that probably doesn't carry around cash.
I never carry cash. I am Facebook and Google know so much about me via my transactions.
This is a way more interesting topic now.
Dude, I'm telling you, and knock on wood, but my credit card's only been skimmed like 3 times in my lifetime.
Only 3? That's a lot, bro.
I know.
That's a lot. I think I've never had my credit card like numbers.
3 times. One time it was.
And you and I are almost the same age.
Yeah. I do a lot of online transactions, like a whole lot.
That's not. That wouldn't. To me, the stuff gets skimmed where you at a point of sale.
No, and that's just it. I don't fucking go to like. I won't get gas from like some independent gas station. I won't do like. I'm always at a chain guy. Yeah, like I try to protect myself. Right?
Are you all about points? Like, are you the guy who's like, I'm a Wawa member and I just
no.
Like, you don't do like member rewards with.
I did when our warehouse was closer to like. A Hess, or not Hess, but Speedway, because like I could just run there real quick and grab gas and grab my energy drinks and do my business. Not anymore. Like I'm not equidistant enough, or everything's equidistant to me now.
Do you have your energy drink with you, by the way?
No, I opted for caffeine pill plus water.
Oh,
Yeah.
Caffeine pill plus water.
Yeah.
Wow. How much is a caffeine pill? Like what's
It's 200 milligrams. I break them in half.
no, cost wise?
$3.92 at Walmart for 90 200 milligram pills. Sometimes 120, depending on whether Jet Alert's feeling.
Let's just round up $4.
$4 I'm getting, and I break them in half, so I take.
So you have 180 energy drinks
for $4.
For $4.
Yeah. Which is a way better deal than
there you go. Than spending
Jocko Fuel.
Than
$4 for one of terrible tasting stuff. We'll never be sponsored by Origin. God damn it!
There's a battle. There's do you have the same? Does it hit you the same way?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, my homeostasis is being caffeinated, right? Because I mean, like throughout the day, I down a total of, not including the 3 cups of coffee I had this morning, I've had 2 caffeine pills broken in half. So 400 milligrams plus the 2 cups of coffee I've had. So 600 milligrams of coffee.
That's a lot, man.
I've been awake since fucking 4:30. What do you want me to do?
That's dude, you need to get sleep, man.
I do get sleep, man.
Well, then why?
It's my homeostasis, man. I know it's an addiction. Leave me alone.
All right.
But so
we'll have to have an intervention on one of these podcasts.
The
episode where we all like, what is everyone doing here?
Like, guys. But the recourse is my thing, right? So if there are clear expectations laid out early on across all types of interpersonal relationships, I feel as though a lot of this stuff can be avoided. So it's just conversations that aren't had.
Yeah. Okay.
So easy for me to say, being married for 10 years.
But the other thing that
checking
happens,
my wife's credit score before we were married and stuff.
But I guess the other aspect, because we're back on the topic of talking about gyms and that sort of
incestuousness and whatnot.
Is that those people, and we're just using the relationship example because it's an easy one.
It's super easy.
Yeah. There's a lot of different ways, but I think all these things come into play regardless of whatever the behaviors or activities that are happening. But is that it's not happening in a vacuum. It's happening in front of a group of people that are closer to both these individuals than a stranger.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like, if I were to date someone at Crunch Fitness, yes, it would be, and I break up with them. Yes, there might be awkwardness when we see each other, but it's not amplified by everyone at the gym that I work out with, everyone at the gym lifting, talking amongst themselves and with me and with her.
But I guarantee you it happens in the group fitness classes.
Bingo.
Right?
Because that's my point.
Yeah,
is it in a CrossFit scenario, in a jiu-jitsu scenario, in a jiu-jitsu gym, because there is a community.
Yeah.
Everyone shoulders the burden of, which in a way is beautiful sometimes, because if there's a tragedy, we all feel it and we all shoulder the tragedy, and people are not isolated.
Yeah, like the entire gym's not like rallying around you when you're hitting your PR on DL, right? But they are at CrossFit, which is awesome, right? Like
and I mean, and we've seen it here, man. We've had some tragedies this year, with people connected with the gym, and it was better that there was a community that felt it, collectively. It is, I actually did understand, like I they say, no man is an island, that like saying. It's like that. I started to get that more because I've always been more of a loner type person, but I saw that, like, to getting through some of these hard tragedies for individuals, it was good that they were not in isolation.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it was good that they were training too, because it distracts them from the morning, but also that there are other people. Like, if we all, it's as weird as it sounds, I think if we all mourn, we do take some of the burden off that one person. Because there's support there. Like, you're not alone if you need anything.
And the celebrations are cool too.
I'm not saying that person is shouldering the burden.
Yeah.
But doing it alone is much harder than doing it with people around you that are there to support you if you need it, and know that. So there's a benefit there. But back to our point of, those two just broke up. Oh my God, and that kind of, because there's gossip is a part of that. When you have a community, if you have a family, people gossip in families.
Sure.
And
that's the tightest community you got, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where You talk about amplification. That's, and we.
Chris is like, all these memories.
So many things to talk about. So many. It's
so many things where I want to. They shall remain nameless.
Yeah, it's sacred, right? Like this is.
Yeah, but I think.
But how do you?
Okay, at what point?
Can you
let me ask you a question.
Can you mitigate it?
Let me ask you a question. At what point do issues need to be addressed and dealt with,
and by whom?
Yes.
That's a never-ending question. Isn't it?
So at what point does a gym owner need to step in and say there's a problem?
When it's affecting, as a gym owner, right? Like one would think that the moment whatever the situation is begins to affect the, I'll use well-being of the other students that are not involved, is when it needs to be addressed. Or before that, obviously. But, I mean, the potential, when you can see the
Are you talking about, like, revenue? Like, we could lose revenue because students might
Yeah, of course, right? Like, it's just like not even a mat bully, but just like the fucking... The moment at which, we always talk about, like, that guy on the mat where they could be the best person at jiu-jitsu in the world, but they're just an asshole and they just drive people away, then that person needs to be addressed, right? Like, it's no different than that situation.
Now, in your opinion, are you the kind of person, like, do you try to communicate with that person or do you kick them out?
You should always give people the benefit of the doubt, right?
Okay.
Like, I mean, because it's like, if there's one thing I've learned, especially now that I'm nearing 40, is that, like, oftentimes people just don't even realize. It's like the dude, like the noob who's fucking freaking out and like spazzing out and shit.
And
right?
scratching everybody.
Yeah, they don't even know, right? Like, and they literally just don't know. So to try to fault somebody for behavior that they are completely unaware of is unfair to them. Right?
Yeah. No, I don't. When you said that, I just thinking of, because I've been doing this foundations class now for, I guess, over a month. So one of those early lessons is back mount and the rear naked choke. And the first
How many times are they fucking digging their fingers into the tops of your hands?
Well, that's not so bad, actually.
Really?
Sometimes. But what I'm thinking about is they're on my back. I immediately break alignment and they still try to like pop my head off. Like they're doing the side choke. So they're just like yanking on my neck,
Right.
just with no, I mean, they don't know. Because they're not getting any feedback, because it's not like we haven't been taught to say, ow, 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 that's not good, because then they'd be like, oh my God, I'm sorry.
So am I an asshole? This happened a lot, right?
Because in jiu-jitsu, you're not supposed to say anything because that's considered if you say something, that's a submission in the sport aspect of it.
Well, I will say,
mats,
so how many times do
communicate.
people grab your fingers? How many times do people dig their elbows into your knee or into your thighs and stuff? I just usually will say to them, hey man, don't grab my fingers. That's bad etiquette. Or especially for the knees, the elbows thing. Hey man, don't do that over to anybody who's got more than 2 stripes on their white belt, because that shit don't work.
And you're gonna get triangled.
Right. It's just and
it's bad posture,
Yeah, just a lot involved with that, right? Like, so I mean,
that's not even it's bad etiquette, but it could work. It's not pain compliance. It's like that's not gonna work.
Right. It's just not gonna work.
And it's actually like you're actually putting yourself in a worse position. I mean. Well, anyway, I got.
So I mean, like, you can say to somebody once you broke an alignment, and they're still crying, like, "Hey, man, like, just let that shit go. You got nothing."
Yeah, no, I try to say, like, try to work on getting the position back. Like, you don't have the choke there, but you do end up like, I'm realizing when you work with brand new people, you are like essentially their grappling dummy a little bit at the beginning. And they don't know. They don't know yet.
No, they don't.
They
definitely don't have regard for your body.
And adrenaline kicks off, and I think the other thing is if they feel threatened, then they're more likely to hurt you by just yanking on stuff.
Yeah, just
because their response
pure
is just,
fighter.
It's just more strength. Whereas if they feel calm and relaxed, then even if they're doing something wrong, they're not doing it with like full force. But they're gonna I did it too, and I don't really remember. Well, I do. I've talked about this before, where I had a realization where it's like, I'm the worst now. If I do jiu-jitsu, they'll work with me, and I'm going to get better faster.
Right.
And I just accept that I'm going to lose at the beginning. Anyway, that's
so okay, so all this shit's going on. If the owner's gym manager, or whatever you want to call them, right? The CEO of the gym is
the CrossFit
unaware.
The CrossFit direct, whatever, owner,
box WOD
owner, box. No, WOD is workout of the day.
Yeah.
Box.
The box owner, box manager,
owner,
whatever you call him. The coach.
The CrossFit people are wincing right now.
Coach is beginning to be a little overused, right? As jargon, I would say.
I still like it as a way to address people. It's nice.
Still like it?
Yeah, I think it's like calling him coach is nice,
I think it depends on the circumstance. I think it's just being overused. Like life coach. Like, get the fuck out of here. Life coach.
Oh, that's different. I'm talking about a constant,
Because a coach to me is there to improve my performance.
If you're on a basketball court, on a baseball field, or on a track, or on a mat, and there's an instructor there, calling him coach is, I think, appropriate.
I don't like people calling me coach.
Okay.
I like Chris. Right?
Okay, well, that's fine, yeah.
But either way, so if they're, at what point should it be even made aware to them if they're unaware of it? Like, whose responsibility is it to bring it to their attention, right? Like...
Well, I would like to think, I just think what ends up happening is you have the owner, hopefully, is connected to his business or her business at some level. Oftentimes, at CrossFit gyms, at jiu-jitsu gyms, the owner is the head coach or head instructor in some capacity. And whether or not they're teaching a majority of the classes or just some, they are teaching. They are on the floor.
Yeah.
And I would think that they have students and or assistant instructors that they're close to that even if the owner doesn't have a great pulse, those people do, and they relay like, dude, you better watch out, like such and such, something's brewing. Something's brewing.
So is their job though
the snitchers
to be the mediator at that point, or is their job just to say, assuming they're not involved in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. To say, y'all got this shit between y'all, leave it outside these doors. That's where things get sticky, right? Because because it's hard because we've developed that relationship here, as you touched upon earlier. We're all so interconnected. Everybody knows what's going on, this and that and the other thing. And it's hard to separate that, right? Like, it's hard to just show up and you're essentially forcing that person, because whatever the situation is so top of mind, to divorce themselves from the community that they love so much, to turn them into that Planet Fitness consumer at that gym for that moment until the things are figured out. It's hard, right? Like,
so I have another question on this whole thing. Is the only people that would understand our passion for CrossFit or jiu-jitsu other people that practice it? Like, is that part of the allure? Is that
I don't think so.
Like,
we talked about this a long time ago with Yoga John, remember? Like, it's any major community-based thing where you spend an extended period of time with. And what was
it? Remind me of how he described the dynamic. I guess he was describing the dynamic between himself and his wife.
Who? Him and his wife?
Yeah. Like, because my point is like, if I'm looking to date someone, am I going to have less chances of success in that relationship if I date someone that doesn't understand how viscerally addicted?
Oh, you're in that regard.
That's what I mean.
I thought you meant like somebody else in terms of one community understanding another community.
No, I'm just talking about like, is that also why people tend to date within these communities, even though they're incestuous?
I mean, it's the same reason why people date people who they work with.
Just convenience.
Just it's there, right? Like, when you spend so much time, it's hard not to, right?
Okay, that might be the point why people do it. But do you think a relationship has a higher? Do you think two jiu-jitsu people have a higher chance to succeed than a jiu-jitsu person and a non-jiu-jitsu person?
Oh, I wouldn't even begin to speculate on that.
Oh, really? Because I'm wondering if that's kind of, because I always thought, I was like, is compatibility someone that has a passion but not one directly tied to mine? So would a great partner for me be a woman that's into CrossFit because she understands the necessity to train so regularly, but it's just not the exact same thing?
I think that's better, to be honest. I mean, like,
because then we each have our own thing.
The exact dude. That's exactly.
And that's kind of instead of like, because or at the very least. Okay, so here's my question: if you had alternate reality, your spouse does jiu-jitsu. Do you want her training at your gym or do you want her training in another gym? Or do you? Or
did I meet her at this gym, or did I meet her outside the gym?
And I'm not saying you're the one that makes that decision of like, well, you can't train here, because I'm just saying it's like you train at one gym, she trains at another gym, or do you train at the same gym?
Did you guys meet at this gym, or did you meet at, or is it two? I mean, like there's so many factors, right? Like we had so many variables.
Let's just say one of you lived in Orlando, the other one just moved to Orlando, and you met before she picked the gym. Would you be like, come train at my gym, or just do open mat at my gym, but you got to train somewhere else because I don't want to mix?
No, because like when you're sharing this, when you have similar interests, oh man, this is Jesus Christ, Noah.
I know.
When you, I feel.
Could you really roll with
when
your
you
wife?
Share the same interest? I would think that you would want to share the experience of it with them.
I mean, certainly a promotion, like let's say you got promoted, and it would be nice to have your
It would be
spouse
fucking weird if you had a girlfriend who trained jiu-jitsu
at Gracie Baja.
No, that aside, it's weird, right? Like, because you'd be like,
what are you guys doing over there?
I mean, like, would you want the person you love, or I'll just use that term.
I'm glad you used that word. We haven't used that word. That should be the word that we all use, love, when we're talking about relationships.
Right. I mean, I would think that the person you love, you would want to share that relationship.
So the reason I say that
experiences with
is when I was teaching like teenagers at a Spanish high school, I was reminded of this. So I did this at that school in Spanish, in English, as an exercise for them to just practice their vocabulary. But I actually saw this, and it was very interesting. It was like with teenagers where they said, when you think of relationships, what do you think of? Just blurt out the words. So everyone would say like, sex, all this stuff, and nobody said love. And that was what the psychologist or teacher was like, hey, what's one word you haven't said? L. And it was like, oh, love. And what it was,
that should be the number one word you say. That
exactly,
should be the first
but
thing
it seems like our minds tend to jump on, and she probably phrased things very specifically.
Romantic love is the thing.
Yeah, but they thought of like other things, like dating and a lot of the sexual side of things, So I don't know exactly what the question was, but the point was, love was not. So that's made me think about. I mean, you finally brought it up, like, that's
one would think that. I mean, like,
and if you love each other, then all this stuff is secondary.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
So I guess now we're transcending the question here, and we're becoming higher beings. But so let's go tangential here on this topic.
If Stacy were to suddenly love,
Faraz Sahabi refuses
roll with women.
roll with women.
That's a fucking crazy thing. Right?
How about that? And he goes as far to say, if you guys are so pure of thought that you can roll with a woman and there's no sexual tension and there are no impure thoughts, because he is a devout Muslim.
Yeah. And
even though he doesn't push that on anybody, that is definitely a pillar.
To think that that's not influencing his.
No, absolutely. That is 100% influencing what he's saying. What he's saying, impure thoughts. That's definitely, that's religious undertones. That's where it's coming from. Fine, that he's entitled to say. But he says that. So I'm just going to go on. It's like, okay, men like, I'm a married man, I can't roll with another woman, or she's a married woman, she can't roll with another guy. Like, there's. I heard. Granted,
that too.
he's also touching on the point that jiu-jitsu in and of itself is an intimate sport.
Oh,
you are in
by
each other.
definition. Yeah.
I mean, I've always, I've joked with Rakaya, like when I went with Rakaya, like on my first day, like I was just like, bam, right up into her chest.
Yeah, like,
you know what I mean? And her sports bra, and I was like, okay.
I'm glad
I lived in Europe for 2 years, because I'm like, okay, this is okay. I'm cool with it.
And that's where, like, we're super full circle.
We're
right?
going all over.
This is like episode 2, like the rolling with girls thing.
No, that was the boob punching. That was episode 3.
That's right. Yeah, evil Noah.
But this all stemmed again from what happens when you have a community versus a consumer-based gym. A community gym versus a consumer-based gym.
Yeah.
You have all these benefits, but you have these, I'm going to just say pitfalls, right? There are ways they can
the
go.
gyms itself too. It's just the nature of the activities, right? Because
is there a solution? Can we come up with ways to avoid? Are there best practices, or is it just This is the cycle. There are going to be cycles where people are dating and then everybody's happy and then they break up. And you've told me of stories of people that fall in love with each other and then they fall in love with the next person. You know, they're
yeah.
And it's like,
Jesus.
you know, so it's love triangle.
And that's them doing the same thing. Like that. That's the. Oh, jeez.
You know.
Oh
so
my God.
It's like, I mean, that's
them sharing a passion together, and
so, you know, it's
But what do you, okay, so is that, oh man, like how do you
police this? Or not police it. Police is not the right word. How do you, as someone,
because it's not preventable.
At a leadership level or a managerial level, keep things from going too far awry? Because there have been stories where things do go awry. Not so much that it's detrimental to the business long term, but where there's a fracturing in that community and people and a chunk of people leave.
I mean, it's yeah, it happens. And it always boils down to money oftentimes, right?
Really?
Money or love, right?
Money or love. Okay, so
money
those
or
are
love.
the two.
It's
so what's an example of a money situation? Like
Stacy's cousin, man. I mean, he doesn't listen to us, but I mean, I'm shouting out to, Kevin here.
Okay.
Like he got his black belt under Fabiano something or another from Gracie Barra. That dude decides to go and do. He's got his own association or whatever the case is, and now he's bequeathed the gym to a couple of his black belts and disagreements.
Did they want those?
What's that?
Did those black belts want? Were they like happy to accept it, or were they like,
yeah, and they were all helping each other,
okay.
and one, and like disagreements happen. Things aren't laid down in writing about expectations.
Oh boy.
Money goes awry, boom, split. Right? So
well, that sounds like doing business with friends and not clearly, having that document that talks about what is.
Lay that shit out, man, right?
Wow.
Like it's you got to have that prenup, right? Got to have that insurance.
That's a business. That's like an operating agreement. You need to have an operating agreement.
And you should have an operating agreement. And this is probably something that's not touched upon. We all know we weirdly communicate mat etiquette. There's off the mat etiquette too, right? And this probably transcends us, as we just discussed, And just, is that something that necessarily needs? One would think as adults, we don't need that shit out in writing to say, guys.
I mean, businesses do it though. Like the first thing I do if I go to a corporate job is I agree to not engage in any romantic relationships with.
On the books. You shouldn't be denied that as an individual.
No, but you're basically saying that like you agree not to do that. Now that doesn't mean people don't do that, but it's
I mean,
in essence you're violating like you're
giving
the
company
business
policy.
You're giving the company grounds to fire either one of you.
Yeah. I mean, if things go awry, right? Like
exactly, or you declare ahead of time like, no, I have a relationship with this person.
Right.
So
I mean.
So do we make is that part of the waiver?
Is that so far off base?
Is that part of the waiver?
It's not an unreasonable thing to do. But how do you enforce that shit and who's liable? I mean, like,
but do we put that in our waiver? Do we basically say as part of our waiver as a member you agree not to engage, not to have romantic relations with anybody at the gym and it's grounds of dismissal?
But I think we can use more
nicer
broad language,
more empathetic terms.
or not even like just to go beyond just the romantic end of things. Is it what you do within these walls on these mats is that any other bullshit, whether it's business dealings, whether it's loaning people fucking money, whether it's whatever, that shit needs to be.
That happens in the jacuzzi at this club.
Exactly. That happens
in the sauna.
You go to the sauna at Crunch Fitness to handle that shit. You don't do that in these mats. You don't do that within these doors, right? Like if
I joke
you do
about
violate,
that. So there's actually truth in what I said. I said that jokingly, but when I worked in a business plaza as a software engineer in Maitland, I was right next to Charles Schwab.
Yep.
And,
I interned there in high school.
Okay, and right across the street is the
1982 Summit Park
the
Drive.
RDV Sports Complex,
Yes.
which had a big jacuzzi in both. You would not believe the number of Schwab
Really?
shit that would go down in the jacuzzi.
Really?
I mean, nothing official, but you know, as they always say, if you go to a convention, the business deals don't happen on the
they
floor.
happen at the bar.
They happen in the bar afterwards.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
They happen at dinner that night when you're taking your client out. That's what.
but they just can't happen on the mats when we do jiu-jitsu.
No, I mean, but like, you know, so that's. But you know that stuff doesn't go on in the office, like you said, right? Like that's so handle that stuff elsewhere. Handle your business elsewhere.
Do you think this comes down to, as we always like to default to, like, you know, personal responsibility and accountability, where it's like being able to just handle your business, and if you do decide to engage in a relationship with someone at your gym, then you need to be an adult and handle the consequences of that and deal with.
Take some fucking accountability, right? Like
that's what we're agreeing on. That's what we're saying.
I mean, it's the easy answer.
It's the easy answer.
It's the good diplomatic answer.
Do you see any like gross like points of emphasis that we could improve upon because we're so grossly off base, or do you just think it's like, this is like, I accept it for what it is, and I know that these awkward things can happen because we have a community, we have a tribe, as opposed to
I think you and I also.
So you're married, so you're just like, whatever. I mean, you want to train more. You're like, I'm not here enough to even be like pulled into stuff.
But like, so that's the thing too, right? Like, so I think you and I are making the mistake of also, are we looking at this through the lens of because we tend to be in the know, we're in the know, and we're making the assumption that other people are in the know, so that like whatever cancer is beginning to metastasize, other people notice.
Okay, that's another thing.
Like, what percentage?
I mean, okay, here's another thing that happens.
Are we being overly observant?
No. I'll say this. Isn't part of the community gym is that people, not all people, but some people that are dealing with problems are more likely to share those problems with other people at gym and or instructors because of the fact that it is a family. And what do you tell family members? Oh, this is the shit that's happened to me, and I just, I'm short on my payments, or this or that. You know what I mean? Or my girlfriend cheated on me, or my boyfriend cheated on me, or whatever. You know what I mean?
And that should be one of those things too, where
my boyfriend's a purple belt here or something. Or
whatever the case is. Oh man,
is that something where it's like, guys, we're not here to have conversations to be people's therapists. Like, we members are not, but we're trying to be nice people to other. I say we. I'm not saying you and I. I'm just saying we as collectively as a community.
Not inject themselves, but the people who, I mean, I don't want to use names, but like, I'm just thinking of like somebody just shows up. Because okay, so what percentage, for example, of people would you say on these mats and these mats alone do just that? They come in,
at least 80%.
They change, they train, and they go.
At least 80%.
At least 80%, right? Like, so it generally the 80-20 rule works out that way, right? So only 20% of the people to kind of deal with
those are what I would call the hardcores that are around.
That know, right? And how much does...
And all they mean by know is that they're always there. So if anything happens, they're just know. Because they're there.
Not even they're involved. They just know.
Like,
I know. But like, so...
How do you know? I was there.
I literally just watched it happen.
Because I'm always there.
But so... The other 80% don't give a fuck or just don't know altogether. Or even if they see, they don't know, so they don't...
And then the other thing is, what percentage of that 20% is actually...
Is it...
And I would say it's 20% of that 20%.
Right. So at that point, we're looking at
so should
4%?
we just kick out that like 20% of 20% just right away? Like, nope.
Are we doing this super fuzzy math where like 1 in a million people gets to black belt? I'm 1 in a million. We're just literally making up.
Let's draw the circle. Let's see. We got the whiteboard. Let's draw the circle. Imagine this: the population, guys. This many people get blue belt.
So that's where are we making the assumption we're putting more weight to whatever the situations are entirely too much, because 80% of the students, it's not an actual cancer, it's the fucking skin tag that you just cut off with a pocket knife and it's not an issue. But because, you know, I mean, like, because
I
people want to know.
definitely think we are talking about this from that perspective of that 20% that's always at the gym.
Yeah. And
so it's just like whether we're involved or not, we're aware.
We just know. And
because if it happens at the gym, we witnessed it. Whether we were part of it or not, we just witnessed it, you know?
Right.
Like,
and is it actually a cancer at that point, or is it just some crazy shit that just happened?
Or does it seem amplified to us because we're always there? Whereas the other 80% is like, maybe they see it on occasion, but not always. You know what I mean?
Or, I mean, like, and it's certainly not happening the hour and a half.
Okay, so now I have a question. Right? Going back to the dating thing. Is that 80% ever going to date someone else at the gym, or is it only the 20% that's always there?
So are you saying does the 20% draw somebody from the 80% into the 20% because of that?
No, I'm just saying, like, are we really identifying there's a subgroup that's really responsible for all the shit we're talking about?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's, I mean,
so guess what? You know who you guys are.
20% are causing 80% of the fucking problems, right? Like, so sure. Like,
because my point is, like, that other 80% is probably going out to the bars, having drink. Like,
it is not an
whereas
issue.
that extreme 20% that's like the hardcores that are like, I only date people at the gym because I don't go out and all this.
Yeah. So you just solved your own mental issue, right?
I know. You saw go. Do you train every day? Oh, you know.
Yeah, you know. So that, and that's where.
Jesus Christ.
So,
okay, I just understand. We're you got what we're trying to say. Don't take everything we're saying literally. We're just
exactly.
We're trying to touch on like
way too many different subjects right now.
Oh my goodness. I can say, like, I think what I find interesting, and I only have the perspective being in this gym, but in the 3 years. And I certainly am part of that 20% because I do train a lot and I'm here a lot. You know, so come on,
a lot, man. Like, I pre-Connor, I was here 6 days a week, so I'm one of
so, so I'm one of those guys that I'm like, man, is this a lot? Is this a little? Is this like, how does this compare to other gyms? Now you've been in other gyms. How would you say this compares? Can you make a comparison and be like, well, when I was at these other gyms, this seems part of the core?
Like a good friend of mine, who's an owner of another gym, has made a sort of like clear policy amongst himself, his own discipline, to limit the personal interactions with the 80%, let's just call it, right? The 80% who just come and go, they just want to come there and get jujitsu or kickboxing, whatever the case is.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he's made a conscious decision because he understands the repercussions of it, right? He's also...
Don't get too close.
He's also seen the repercussions of what can happen if you get too close, financially and whatnot, right? So, like, that can cause problems as well. So, like, it takes discipline amongst everybody to at least recognize and to take yourself out of your own fucking bubble and the selfishness that can often be involved of, like, oh, it's convenient for me, like the Josh Hinger example. It's convenient for me. This is what I'm going to do. Fuck everybody else. If it does cause a cancer, that's their problem. I was here first. Right? Like that's a little bit selfish and immature.
So you did say this. You said this in passing, and we just kind of glazed over it. We're probably very guilty of being in a bubble right now and focusing only on gyms.
Yeah.
Imagine if we worked at Chili's as servers. Or just we worked at Chili's.
Which I've heard the movie Waiting is...
Oh, dude, I saw that movie. I saw the movie the other night.
Oh,
Waiting.
Was it?
Yeah, and that's what kind of triggered me. I was like, dude.
They're like, around it. That's exactly it, right?
I mean, like, maybe if we were at Chili's, we'd be like, oh, this jiu-jitsu... If those people would listen to this podcast and be like, these guys are lightweights.
Yeah, exactly, right? But, but somehow my food still gets to my table and it's great, right? Like, I'm the unwitting... But here's the problem, right? Because... the customers there are not in the back kitchen. The customer here are the kitchen.
Correct. Yes, you're right.
That's a big difference. That's a huge difference.
Exactly. So I would see the same thing when I was a tennis instructor at IMG Academies in Bradenton. There was a huge coaching staff. You would have that same thing. Where the coaching, what would happen amongst the coaching staff? Yes, there's drama, but that was isolated from the customer.
As it should be.
Whereas here, and now it goes back to what you said about traditional martial arts school. We talk about free labor.
Yeah.
There's an intermingling of students with work and this whole thing.
It becomes this like weird, like, so that's the issue.
So
right?
maybe we have picked up on a subtlety here that
because
on a distinction here.
Because Crunch Fitness, the staff
The staff might be having orgies in after hours for all we know.
But the problem, but there's not enough interaction with the guys ordering the burger at Crunch Fitness, where it can even remotely become an issue. Over as long as that fucking hamstring curl machine is clean and in good working order.
It might get in the way of the business from the instructor's point of view, like how they collaborate or not collaborate. But it doesn't get in the way of the paying customer.
It ultimately boils down to, I guess, what the actual product is, right? And if the product is a community,
correct. There it is.
If the product
that's part of the value prop. Part of the value prop for a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms, certainly for CrossFit, is community. So it's part of the value proposition.
That's a huge thing, right? Like if
exactly.
If the product is the actual community, because like that's ultimately it too, right? Like you're not a big comic book guy. But the best, most successful comic book stores, and I've seen this now, especially since I first walked into fucking Spider's Web in Altamont Springs in 1989, right? Like, that was just a comic shop. You fucking walk in, you talk to the dude, you buy your shit, and you go. You get your box, right?
Your kind of place.
Right? Like, recourse.
Transactional. I have recourse if I want. They
but
take
then
my
you
credit
look
cards.
at a store like a comic shop over at university, and this is what you have to do to stay in business now, right? Like, you got to get people in your door and keep them there, right?
So then you have your Magic the Gathering tournaments.
You got your fucking bar in the back now at a comic shop. Have you not been there?
No.
Oh, we got to go.
There's a bar?
We'll go do trivia night.
Oh, dude.
So it started out just a comic shop, right? Great location across the street from Full Sail. And literally just sold comics and like no huge back issue bins.
Is this on Cimarron?
Yeah, but behind the bikini car wash.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is this behind the...
Yeah, we're assholes. I get it. We're toxic dudes. It's behind the bikini car wash.
So
they're not
anyone who lives in Orlando and you're wondering what we're talking about, if you drive Cimarron and University, there's a Citgo.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, Noah.
The Citgo. I go there all the time. I want to go to Sprouts from the gym. I go up Cimarron.
Oh, okay. So Sprouts, right? Okay. Jesus Christ.
And there's always a cop car lurking.
As they should.
As they
like,
and they're always scantily clad women.
I mean, it's their job. It's not called the fully closed car wash. It's the bikini car wash, right?
Yeah.
But there's a comic shop back there, and they actually bought out. They got a beer and liquor or beer and wine license and stuff.
Well, it
they
looked like there's an adjacent brewery. Did they just break that down?
No, they just knocked a wall down. There's a comic shop on one side. You walk.
There's a CrossFit gym in that plaza too, I think.
It's around the corner.
Okay.
Winter Park CrossFit.
Okay.
It's in old 7-Eleven actually. Down. Whatever.
Anyway, anyone who doesn't live in Orlando, they're like, "What the?"
Yeah, we're out. Sorry, New Zealanders or whatever. But like, so either way, I mean, so that's how. Ultimately, like, to build a strong community, you're just renting space, right? Like,
my third place, like we
my third place, right? Like that's what you need, and to build that community. And if a dude's just coming in to just fucking do your hamstring curls or whatever the case is, and curls in the rack, asshole, then that's the product. That's what they got, and they're not dealing with everybody else, right? But I guarantee you, the bros who are out at the fucking gym curling and cheering each other on, that shit goes on amongst them and like the little whores in their like, tight clothes who are whoring themselves out. I guarantee you that shit happens amongst them.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So like,
but
that's
it has nothing to do with there's no responsibility on the gym.
Because that's just the community they built amongst themselves.
Yes, that's a group of friends. We would say that's a group of friends that train together instead of the gym community.
I sound like a super asshole saying that.
I know, you're like whoring it up and
like Jesus Christ, Chris.
Damn, dude, look at you. You are the most
but that's
conservative
just what it is. Yeah,
look at you judgmental.
Personal responsibility.
You judgmental prick.
Just don't be poor. Who was that? It was who said that? I forgot.
I don't know, man. Just pick a name. Dude, I love how
your hat slowly comes up.
I love how you going into the gym. Look at these scantily clad women. It wasn't like this back in the day.
But so that's just it. It's whatever the product of the actual business is. You're opening yourselves up if your product is the community.
What we said a few minutes ago was I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. It's part of the value proposition of CrossFit. Part of when you pay for a subscription to CrossFit.
Oh yeah.
Whether you want it or not, what you're also paying for, part of what that business is trying to provide you is community.
Oh yeah.
Right? Part of what a lot of martial arts gyms are trying to provide to you is community. That's just the nature of it. I don't know if you could do a jiu-jitsu school that doesn't jiu-jitsu like hanging out on the mats afterwards.
And the ones who do, who don't build the community by themselves don't succeed, right?
Don't seem to do well.
They don't succeed.
Because this seems to be one of those things where there's a, what is that ringing?
It's my ring, actually.
Your ring? Oh, okay.
So somebody's trying to break into my house apparently.
Oh, this is your front door?
Yeah.
Is Stacy at your front door?
But no.
Okay.
I just need to snooze it, but it's probably some fucking dude walking his dog.
So I definitely think that, now this goes to, was it Opening Close Guard? That documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like, is it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Is it just Jiu-Jitsu? And, there is a culture of hanging out on the mats and chit-chatting and whether it's the fact that our endorphins are hanging out. People don't do that when they go to a yoga class.
But I think they do.
They just don't do it there. They go outside. We hang out on the mats and fraternize.
We literally have.
They kick you out of the yoga gym, out of the yoga studio because there's another class going on, and you can't sit around. Because
they don't. The yoga studio is generally renting out. They're subletting that class hour or whatever the case is, right? Whereas that doesn't happen at a jiu-jitsu gym because they own the gym.
And it's just having mat space is conducive to just, let me just sit on the wall on the mat.
Yeah,
it's kind of comfy.
Yeah.
Let's chill,
But it happens at traditional martial arts schools too.
It does? Okay.
I can tell you that
at that Taekwondo school, you'd hang out afterwards.
Oh, yeah. But it was also just the 20%.
Yeah,
right?
100%. 100% about the 20%. We've identified they're the hardcores and they're the 80% that come 3 days a week, 2 days a week.
But look at how much that 20% can cause trouble.
And and it's not even that 20%.
It's the 20% of the 20%.
Of the 20% that we spend all our time talking. We spend 80% of the time talking about. Yeah. Ha! Stats, ladies and gentlemen.
What is it? The Pareto Prince? No.
So let's talk about Wonder Woman. Let's get off.
Speaking of 20%.
So I thought Wonder Woman 84 sucked.
So I wanted to approach it from the standpoint of clean slate.
Yeah, I thought it was such a bad movie.
You ruined it.
I thought I gave you a chance of liking it because I was setting your expectations so low. Because I was like, this is absolute garbage. This is a steaming pile of garbage of a movie.
The first one was so good.
I like the first one.
The first one was so good. And
it had its flaws, but I enjoyed it. I liked it more than Man.
Just the third act. Go away, third act.
No, out of all the movies, what's weird is I'm actually going back, and I have fonder memories of Man of Steel now, even though at the time I was so pissed off at Man of Steel when it came out. And then Batman v Superman was just what it was.
That was weird.
And I was like, and then I kind of was like, and I was like, yeah, and I was like, and I was like, what? I still think Batman v Superman was the best one they've made. I still think it's better than the original, Wonder Woman 1. But Wonder Woman 1 was already
a clearer movie. I
was like, yeah. There's some things that I would be like, that's a little weird, but whatever. It was good, it was good. And the third act,
go away. According to Patty Jenkins, that she didn't want that.
Yeah, forget whatever. And then Justice League, we're
gonna see the true vision come March. We're gonna see it.
Yeah. So anyway, Wonder Woman 84.
Oh man,
we saw it at home.
I wanted to like it so much.
We saw it at home, right? Because it was on HBO Max.
Looks great in 4K though.
Yeah. Defying physics. Physics.
She's a pretty girl.
Okay, so that seems to be. So did you see the Rotten Tomatoes once it came live? The aggregate rating went from 80s down to 60s.
Yeah, it started at 89, then it became 81. Now it's 67.
So I believe that. Okay. This has nothing to do with. My roommate is dude, Gal Gadot, whatever, is a horrible actress, and it's just that she's drop dead gorgeous that everyone doesn't see the fallacy. That's just one thing. So I think the movie was just bad, and you could have whatever actress playing Wonder Woman, and all these complaints would have her and her her acting skill, whether you thought it was bad or whatever. That's not the issue I'm going to focus on with that. But I will say this. DC has an approach that's different from Marvel. And Marvel, I think, has clearly gone superior. It's shown it's a better track record. DC seems to cast the absolute, top-end model people for their main roles. Henry Cavill.
Oh, he's...
Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
The Rock is going to be Black Adam.
Yeah.
And
Affleck, I mean, he's love him or hate him.
Oh, Affleck was the most actory pick.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa's Aquaman.
Yeah, exactly.
You basically took male model. You basically took people that were models in their entire life, doing this. And the only reason Jason Momoa's Aquaman is, to me, tolerable is because he has his own charisma anyway, and that's just Jason Momoa being Jason Momoa.
I don't know him from any other source.
Oh, if you just follow it, he's just acting as himself.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, he's just acting himself. Whereas Henry Cavill doesn't have personality.
Oh, don't say that.
He
Jesus.
does. Although
Superman isn't supposed to have a lot of personality either. He's the fucking Boy Scout, right? He's the big blue Boy Scout.
But Boy Scout doesn't mean no personality.
I mean, I don't think.
Anyway,
but
I don't want to get caught.
I mean, I gotta say,
let's talk about.
Okay, so Christopher Reeve does a great job
meanwhile,
too,
the main casting of the first casting of the MCU set the tone. They got Robert Downey Jr., an actor with a ton of character and charisma. Some would argue he plays himself to some degree.
Iron Man.
He worked. They didn't take Brad Pitt and made him Iron Man, or Tom Cruise and make him Iron Man.
Having read
the most I would say model choice or model casting job was Thor, taking Chris Hemsworth. Because I think Chris Evans already had an acting resume where you could be he's an actor.
Yeah. I mean,
whereas
he's the Human Torch.
Yeah. But Hemsworth was more of he's an actor. But he showed Thor 1 and 2.
He kind of he created the role.
What ended up happening was, if you look at his portrayals, people don't care about Thor 1 and 2. They care about Ragnarok because that's when he actually became a self-deprecating, funny guy.
Yeah. And despite looking like
exactly
fucking Chris Hemsworth,
so anyway,
fuck you, Chris Hemsworth. Yeah, being so goddamn handsome.
So anyway, point is, Wonder Woman 84 sucked in my opinion.
So that's also
you saw you saw the first half. You're like, this is, what was the word? Fanciful. I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
Man, okay. So I'm
by the way, we might spoil this to some degree. So if you're listening and want to watch it, go watch it. I mean, we're gonna wrap up the podcast with this. So if
she wins.
If you want to skip to the end or whatever, support Crown Rash Guards. But we're gonna talk about Wonder Woman. So just spoilers.
So okay, so I
people are breaking down there are too many villains and this. I'm like, that wasn't the issue. The issue
was really all over the place. The story was.
It was just stupid.
What's the term?
Scatterbrained.
What's that?
Scatterbrained.
Super scatterbrained, but what, MacGuffin?
I've heard that term, but I don't know what.
It's a plot term. It's the thing that they just have to get because it's the thing.
Yeah. Oh, that was the main thing. The main plot point was the dumbest thing I've ever. That was just so stupid.
I was gonna hope that it was gonna tie into a larger thing, with. I thought the central conflict of Wonder Woman 1 was very.
You
good.
Can't always get what you want. That was the term of that was play the Rolling Stone music. That to me was the theme that they're trying to get across, but it was just stupid, man.
And the contradiction of peace by way of war in the first movie was awesome. Very well executed, I felt. Can they shoehorn in the message in the first 10 minutes so hard when she's talking to that little girl
who defied physics with everything she did?
I was like, she's Themysciran, dude. She's a demigod. But when she literally said to her, no. When Jenny from fucking Forrest Gump was like, I was like, are you kidding me? This is with great power comes great responsibility. Is the first 10 minutes of some little girl running around and her not getting the win because she cheated. I'm like, come on, man. This is where we're gonna go, huh? So now I know that when whatever the central conflict is gonna happen, it's gonna boil down to just, I just can't win by taking the easy way out. Come on.
And that wasn't even employed in the final battle.
Sure it was. What's an easier way and a shortcut than making a fucking wish?
No, that was more. No. The final, no.
Are you talking about him wrap around the leg?
Yeah, no. No. What to me, the callback happened when she said bye to her her imaginary boyfriend.
That was all really weird.
I only see you, Chris Pine.
Yeah, like,
I only see you.
I was like, man, there's a lot going on. He couldn't.
But he wore a fanny pack, so I'm all for it.
He couldn't just vanish away like in Infinity War. Like it had to be.
Anyway.
What? Like there's just a lot. Like all
but
the
in
leaps
the end,
of logic.
The argument she was making is every wish you make comes at a price. It had nothing to do with you can't get the easy. Like,
well, that was Maxwell Lord's lesson.
Like the lesson that her mom or stepmom or her mother figure in the beginning, Robert Wright, not Robert White Penn anymore. It's Robert Wright.
First off, it's Robin. Not,
Robin.
Not a dude.
Robert. Sorry,
Yeah, Jesus. I mean, if she identifies that way, good for her. I'm pretty sure
Robin
she's Jenny,
Wright.
though.
Her thing was if you cheat, it doesn't count. Like you don't cheat. She'd be against steroids.
Oh my, mighty jaw. Like, she's like 85 years old, right? Like, but she had a pretty good, strong jaw from.
But my point is that was the lesson. So she was like, I can't cheat to have this because I need to, I mean.
So you're saying? So do you think that opening scene was added after the fact, and it just kind of like they kind of?
Oh, I don't know when they added it. I mean, the whole thing
weird.
didn't make
like
sense.
It didn't fit. Like
it looked like they were demoing like this is what a ride at Disney is going to look like in 20.
The CGI is so bad.
I know,
so bad.
I know the CGI. I will say this: they overdid. Suddenly, she was using her whip everywhere. They like loved her using her whip in battles. And then the only move that still looks cool, even though they overused it, was her sliding kick. Like
sliding
like, kick.
That's from like BVS.
Yeah,
like,
but then she did all these other moves that were just like what?
You think they were trying to?
Everything slowed. Everything was a slow mo.
Which is, I mean, Zack Snyder was the executive producer.
Yeah.
It didn't look to me like she was very physical in like Wonder Woman.
You would think their budget would have spent like. They probably cost as much to make as a Marvel movie, and the Marvel special effects look leaps and bounds better.
Like this was, I mean, I was kind of half joking about it, but like it was kind of like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man bad. Like,
oh, dude.
I'm like, it looks good.
And the way they were moving through physics, and you're like, well, she can fly. She didn't know how to fly until she was told by her imaginary boyfriend who
he was there.
Who was there.
In spirit.
So my question is, if she made the plane invisible, did they just see like two people in the pilot? Like, did they just see? Because they weren't invisible.
That's how it was in the cartoon.
That you would just see them floating.
Yeah, so she's like, like.
I think there are some things that they could have done a better job translating. I know. I had to look it up. It's like Wonder Woman does have the power of flight.
Yeah. So this is.
So they made it like. She knows how to fly by actually using her arms. Like they were implying that her arms were doing aerodynamic things. Because she would like leap up into the air. She would go flying into the air against physics.
I have this weird recurring dream
it's just,
that I've had since
then
I
she
was
was just
11.
like kind of like she was like I'm a glider. She was like doing the glide. I can glide. I was like,
but then
you're literally using your
like almost like a hang or
then she went to a Superman. Then she went to a Superman thing.
Yeah, like this one.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm like, I don't know.
There's a lot going on there.
Also, she somehow she was okay. This is the other thing where I fucking lost it. She's in a. Again,
hang on. Where did she get the armor from? Like,
where'd she get the armor? She's in the desert.
Is there?
She's in the
are
desert.
we missing a scene?
She's in the desert. She's in a car wearing street clothes, mind you. Not like a coat. She's not in Russia where she's bundled up. She's wearing like a light top and khaki pants because she's in the desert. Think like Indiana Jane or Lara Croft, like in street clothes. She's just like that. And then they see the bad guy goes by. She's like, turn around. She turns around, and the next thing you know, Tiara's coming on, and she's in full armor. And I'm like,
I'm not talking about that armor. I mean, at least that can kind of fit underneath her clothes, kind of.
No way that fits under her clothes, bro. Did she just change? Like, did Chris Pine look over like, holy shit, she's naked? And he's like changing. Okay, what about the wings on the final suit?
That's what I'm saying. Like
that just move around, and it's like, how do they move?
I mean, imbued magic, man. I mean, like, what,
but sometimes it would work with their hands, where it's like it's connected, like it's like one of those big mech warrior suits from like.
It was almost kind of like a takeoff of Falcons. Thing,
yeah, where Falcons is clearly it's attached to.
Yeah, it's definitely an extension.
Anyway,
but I was like, where did that come from? Because she went from there to there. Did she swing by her house real quick? I was like, where the fuck did this armor come from? I will say I was fairly happy with how Cheetah looked. Like, I'm okay with it.
I don't know if that's true to the.
Oh, not at all. I mean, like she would look.
I don't know if that's true to the origin, where she just like I want to be the apex predator. 2 wishes.
It was like a stone that was imbued, and she happened to like.
Also,
it was like
I looked up the character that the guy was.
Maxwell Lord.
Yeah, Mandalorian. Yeah, he has telepathy.
Yeah. He should be controlling people's minds.
So he's almost like the bad guy from Jessica Jones in a way.
Yes,
where that guy releases like some sort of pheromone, but same sort of deal.
No, but his is actually like he's like a mutant. He's basically a bad Professor X.
But he's like a Lex Luthor that has.
Yeah.
He's just a rich dude.
He's a super manipulator. I mean, like, and that's what's it. He's actually. I thought she was gonna snap his neck because at the end of Infinite Crisis, where he's mind controlling Superman, and he's like. Superman's annihilating everybody.
See, how cool would that be?
That would have been awesome.
What if they bring Henry Cavill in? Henry Cavill is nuking the world.
Well, what happened was, Maxwell Lord makes Superman see all of his peers as his greatest enemies.
Yeah.
So he's going through and just fucking annihilating the
he's
entire
seeing Doomsday. He's seeing.
Have you seen that? And then so. And it's sort of like
it's funny how a lot of DC big events involve Superman like getting like he seems to be the weak link. That's why Batman's always carrying kryptonite. He's like he's like
this fucking guy.
He's cool and he's cool, but he can go off the deep end, man.
But that's why BVS works, right? Because if there's that 1% chance that he fucking
there's a 1% chance I will take that as an absolute.
Yeah. But so like I was hoping that it was gonna be like. Instead of causing all this weird, wishy chaos, I thought he was going to be like, I'm going to control all the Amazons and have them attack America. And just something's going to happen. And actually have mind control powers, which he didn't. It was weird. They could have handled him a lot better as a villain.
It was just weird, man.
Like, it didn't work as well. Like a lot of people, so there are a lot of comparisons. People say like Batman Returns, that worked well with two villains because they were both independent of one another.
Yeah.
This was dual villains, but they were not independent of one another, which was weird.
Well, also the escalation of the guy's power, of Maxwell's power, was so fucking random. He was
even
just
by way of like
everyone
television.
Like, tell me, no. When he got to that point, whatever. Before that, it was just like. Tell me what you wish for. Tell me what you wish for. And then next thing you know, he's with the president. Tell me what you wish for. It's like, it was like comedic. It was like, wish that there's going to be no traffic on the way. It just sounded.
So how many people?
And then there was no indication. Like, what's this higher power that's controlling this?
They didn't. That's what they should have touched upon.
And then here's the thing. And then when
that's the villain.
And then when they undid it all, like. Literally, we were seconds away from nuclear holocaust, and everything just disappeared.
So there were so many callbacks. Like, this was Patty Jenkins's.
Dude, I'm like, Superman in the original Superman turning back the Earth made more sense than this.
And that was Patty Jenkins's thing, right? Like, and you can see the parallels now. The flying scene was clearly the flying scene with Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve. It was clearly that. It was romantic, blah blah blah. Like it was her homage to that movie, right? Like. And him spinning the Earth backwards was literally her. I wish for you all to unwish your shit or whatever the hell it was. Like that was her that. Right?
But she didn't wish. She actually let them unwish.
No, I know. She explained them the power of truth.
I know. I wasn't talking. Right? I thought to me they had the clear thing to just have the kid undo his wish because the kid like wished
even his Asian son.
You can make comments about this because you're Asian. I was like that kid. By the way, that kid was a terrible actor.
Oh my god, he was bad.
He made the dude who did Anakin Skywalker in the prequels look like
Jake Lloyd.
Yeah, that guy.
Wait, you talking about like the adult Anakin?
No,
like the
baby Anakin. Like that.
I mean, he's a kid, right? He's no Haley Joel Osment, right? Like that kid's awesome.
Yeah, dude.
So
There are a lot of little like I think my favorite.
Yeah, he was a bad actor.
Like the most impressive like child acting I've seen in a movie was
Super 8.
No, I actually haven't seen Super 8, so I need to. Is Man on Fire? Dakota Fanning.
Okay.
Dakota Fanning as a.
Isn't that a little bit like a turnoff to you though when they're too good of an actor? Like I don't like that. Like I feel as though.
I mean, I just thought she was playing a kid really well. Like she was.
Really?
Yeah, it's not like they're playing an adult. It's not like you have a kid that sounds like.
And
an adult.
I've seen her in movies when she was a child, and when they speak too much like an adult, that's a turnoff to me. And I want to say
that's
that
bad
was the
writing.
case.
That's like bad script writing. Like that's the script people, and they're just.
Well, I mean, hell, Stranger Things is great kid acting.
Yeah,
because
those kids are growing up fast.
Yeah, they're like our age now.
That's why they moved out. I think now next is gonna be in college because like guys.
There is a Stranger Things 4, which I didn't really like 3 that much, to be honest.
Yeah, but they have loose ends that they're tying up. Anyway,
yeah, no.
Wonder Woman 4,
84. WW84.
WW4. It's like at the end, it's like she's trying to do something with the rope. With her rope, it clearly is not working, and then somehow it just like creeps like a snake when we're not looking. And
that's how did Tony get the stones from?
Yeah, it's like there's all this stuff where they're just, and again, it was just ludicrous. Like, oh, I wish for separation, and then I wish for my own state, and it's like
for his country.
I know, I get it, and then just walls. I mean, which I thought was super ironic. Was like walls just like come like just boom out of the ground. It's like, dude, this like.
And then it fills with water, which is strange.
I think I would have been able to swallow this a little bit if they actually showed you a god. Then I'd be like, okay, I can. This is really like this person is like super powerful, but at least I'm seeing like there's a god. He's like, and then
okay. So that's incidentally that was my problem with Ares at the end, like is because we saw the god, and I was like, like.
Well, he looks like ass.
He looked terrible. But like if he had just been, I'm the mastermind, because Loki didn't need to get on fucking armor, right? Like, he was just an asshole to everybody, and he made this shit happen. I want to say that they were almost implying this was kind of like a Loki, right? Like the dude who
the trickster.
I mean, it was actually it's
Saruman. This is Loki in the the alternate timeline.
Who the hell forged the ring? They'll rule them all.
Oh, Sauron.
Sauron, right?
Yeah.
Like
Saruman was the guy who worked for Sauron. He was like one of the White Wizards.
I've never seen the third one, so
okay, that's fine.
And 2 was good.
Isn't that funny? So they're doing a Loki series, which looks really good. The trailer looks very intriguing.
He's like a super spy.
Yeah, maybe in one of those episodes he comes over and
that would be excellent. And he forges his ring and puts some shitty crystals in it that looks like something that I grew in my
super meta.
My childhood lab.
No, I mean, I literally said like I would have been able to understand this more if that stone was a genie lamp and a genie came out every time and did something.
That would but
like,
I mean,
that's why I said Aladdin made more sense than this.
It not their strongest title. So we rank the Marvel movies. Let's rank the DC. And DC's a lot less, so it's easier to do.
So I'm going to have BVTS 1, Wonder Woman 1, 2.
Okay. Aquaman 3?
Aquaman 3. Actually, I might put Aquaman 2.
It was just a fun movie, man.
So much happened in Aquaman. Like that Aquaman was like 10 movies.
And there weren't a lot of like logical inconsistencies either.
It was just there, you know what I mean? So I'll do Aquaman 3 though.
Aquaman was like
then Man of Steel and then Wonder Woman. WW2.
What about Justice League? Blah. We have to remove it from the equation.
Justice League is unrated. Right now I would still have it above Wonder Woman 84.
Really?
Oh yeah, Wonder Woman 84 wasted. Like I regretted that I lost an hour, like 2.5 hours of my life. With Justice League, I was like, this ending's stupid, but they were still entertaining. It was just like a botched handling of everything.
Yeah, it was a Frankenstein movie,
but
for sure.
Whatever, you know, like they're still okay movies. Like him recruiting Aquaman was cool. Like they were isolated moments that were cool. This whole movie made no sense. You know, what are you doing, dude?
I did not do a thing. Dude,
you're
this is fucking Skynet.
Yeah, Skynet's taking over, man.
Jesus
Your phone
Christ.
is talking to us.
Your search. I would say I like BVS, the Ultimate Edition.
Yes,
the best.
I
would put Man of Steel too. Actually, I like Man of Steel a lot because I think it really set the stage for the look and the feel of the DCEU. Aquaman 3rd. No, I take back Wonder Woman
1,
3,
3. Yeah, Aquaman 4.
Aquaman 4.
And then what?
And then WW 84 next.
And then Justice League.
Yeah. Because I'm perhaps I'm a Zack.
Okay, so,
I've liked Zack Snyder ever since Dawn of the Dead.
Okay, so here's my question. Now let's cross universes.
He's gonna make a cool prequel.
So what do you? Okay, BVT. So tell me. Oh, how am I going to do this? We're going to have good memory here if we do this. Basically, what I'm saying is, where do you think BVTS would rank among Marvel movies?
Who?
I mean, it's kind of hard because they're different.
They're very different.
You know.
I mean, also keep in mind, like I heard Joe Quesada say this a long time ago at a MegaCon, and somebody asked him, like, "Hey, like." I love both you guys. I love and this is when he was still EIC, right? Editor-in-chief of it was basically the man personally responsible for revamping Marvel as a comics a viable.
So
comics
he did the Crisis thing, like he did
Marvel, not DC.
Oh, Marvel. So
you're thinking of Dan Didio.
Oh yeah, my bad.
But so Joe Quesada took over.
So he did the New 52.
You're thinking of DC again.
God dang it.
Quesada was basically originally he had his own little pocket universe called Marvel Knights, which was wildly successful. And then they're like, man, take what you did with Marvel Knights and take these, not shit properties, but just waning properties within Marvel. And he made them, he made comics at Marvel about the writing and not the art.
Yeah.
So they made him EIC. He revamped things, almost personally responsible for what we have now. I mean, just barring Kevin Feige, right? They asked him, like, we love both of you guys. Didio's doing his thing with DC. You're doing your thing with Marvel. What is ultimately the difference between Marvel and DC? And he said, DC, no doubt, they write superheroes. Marvel, we write superpowered people. And so, like, to try to compare the two, now extending that to the from the comics to the movies, I would say very much the same way.
It's just the DC, especially Batman. They have such a better villain gallery. Like the villains for Batman, are just so much more compelling. Like I think that's the thing. Like I think the dynamic between Batman and his villains carries people's opinions of DC so much.
Yeah.
Because people aren't thinking about Brainiac and Superman to the same degree. I mean, they do think of Lex and Superman, and
because the villain should be the
yin and
opposite,
yang,
right? And he's
whereas in Marvel,
they have terrible villains.
The villains turn out to be good guys. Like Loki is now a good guy.
Yeah, but that I think that's because of
Thanos was the most compelling bad guy, by far.
I mean, and was he wrong?
I was on the Thanos was right hashtag Thanos.
He's mean. His mean.
Thanos did nothing wrong, or what hashtag?
Yeah, Thanos did no wrong.
So
I don't know. I mean, I would say it's better than fucking Thor 2.
Oh yeah.
I would say it's better than Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
I would say it's better than Doctor Strange.
But you're just right. It's just a different type.
It's a different type.
It's a totally different type of movie.
It was a different.
And I think that's why Endgame works, because we're so invested in the characters.
Yeah.
We're not invested in we're invested in the character arcs and all the equity that we went into the characters, whereas
them as people.
Yes.
Like actually people.
And that's what I wanted Man of Steel to be. I wanted it to be more of a character study, and it kind of touched on it a little bit, but then it was like, well, the guy at IHOP knows who I am, and I'm
and that's where and
I got my cape without any I was like, whatever, I just got my suit, no big deal,
Yeah, the origin part of it was a little but Jim Lee said, when in an interview with Kevin Smith, and he's like, I love the Donner Batman or Superman, excuse me. It's hard to deny it's probably the greatest superhero movie ever made.
Christopher Reeve is such a compelling,
legit actor.
Yeah, and he defined the role, even though it's going to look dated. There's still elements of the character that are just so endearing. Like he comes off as a nice, naive guy.
Yeah.
That wink, wink actually
Right.
He's playing the He's playing the
but
naive
that's
guy.
also pre-crisis, so that's before.
Well, now we're really losing our
go into that
audience.
another day.
Anyway, we got to get ready for class.
I'd say it's a good B+ Marvel movie.
Okay. All right, fair enough. It just does a lot more than a typical Marvel movie. You know, like more happens in BBT. Yeah.
Shoot.
Anyway.
Trying to terraform the earth.
Yeah, so shout out again to our sponsors, Crown Rash
Guards.
Guards. Check them out. Use our promo code BREWS.
I wore it when it was 35 degrees outside, lifting weights.
There you go. Use our code BREWS, BREWS, at checkout. Get 20% off an order of a single rash guard. Check them out. It's crownrashguards.com and on social media at Crown Rash Guards, Instagram and Facebook. Guys, have a great week. I hope you had a great holidays and a happy New Year. This is actually dropping after the New Year, so I hope you had a good New Year.
We'll have to Skype our next one.
Yeah, and we will catch you same place, same time in 2021.
Like, subscribe, share.
You got it.